This is Omar Sheikh. I'm here with Brandon Castro, who's running for the 30th District Assembly. Welcome to Queens Voice, where we give the voice to Queens and, issues. We talk about issues that are relevant to Queens and maybe the greater New York area and hopefully maybe national one day. So without further ado, I want to get to Brandon, the man who's in the focus right now. Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself, like where are you from, go ahead, I'll let you do it. Where are you from and what do you hope to do? What motivated you to be doing what you're doing? You're only 24 years old.
Right.
I can't even remember what I was doing at age 24. So that's like an inspiration to many people older than you and also younger than you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm quite new to this. As like he was saying prior, I'm only 24. I'm the youngest candidate running in Queens this year. And what really motivated me is, I guess, back in high school and college, I saw how like the presidential politics got into play. That's kind of when it first started to get mainstream, like around 2015, 2016. So everybody was talking about it. Everybody had an opinion on it, and I just always felt like I was one of the few ones that actually try to be rational. And so a lot of those experiences is what got me interested in politics, and I just always felt like people felt the need to speak under my behalf because I happen to be a Hispanic or a male or this or that, and I just always felt like, no, I have my own opinion, I have my own voice, and then that just led me to developing my voice pretty late on. So high school, during my college years, I was a student senator there. I had like many different roles there, many that honestly, if I were to list now, I'd probably forget. But I try to get involved with as many things as possible because I just always felt the need to represent myself, but to represent others too, because there was always things that people were afraid to say. It's kind of like when people think of something, but they're afraid to say it, but then they just let it sit there for too long, where the very loud minority of people, they have the, what's it called? Their 20% opinion turns like 95%, and all of a sudden everyone else is just moving along, doing their own job, doing their own work, basically trying to develop into their best selves. All of a sudden, all their opinions are overshadowed, and I felt like there was a lack of a voice. And so I just always felt the need to speak up. And once I developed my voice, I developed the things that I actually care about. That's when I felt the need to actually run. I saw that there was nobody going for this seat. So I was waiting and waiting and waiting for weeks on end and for months on end. Nobody was going for it. I think I was one of the last candidates, if not like the second to last candidate, to actually go up. So I was very much like a late bloomer whenever it comes to that stuff. I believe I was official until like the week prior. So I waited quite a while for it because I didn't want to do it now. My goal was to run for assembly in 2026 or to run for city council in 2025, as horrible as the city council district is there. But I felt, hey, this is an election year. Everybody's going to be talking about it, and I care more about the long-term play. And so, win or lose, which I'm very confident that I can actually win.
Tell us a little bit about your family background. Like, how was it growing up? You live in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
So first tell us what District 30 encompasses, what areas?
Right, so District 30 encompasses the communities of Maspeth, Woodside, and Elmhurst.
And you live in one of these?
Yes, I've lived in Woodside for like my whole life pretty much.
So tell us a little bit about how it was growing up here and if any of those experiences led you to this decision to run for office.
Right, so growing up in Woodside gave me the perspective that, especially as a student coming out of college, coming out of high school, I know exactly how the public school system is like. I know how the college system is like. I'm a direct student of the CUNY system, so I'm very much aware of how people my age think about how the world is now and how people are going to be growing up, not only in my generation, but the upcoming ones too. There's a lot of things that my parents probably didn't have to worry about. They had to work very hard, and I'm very, very proud, and I'm very, very grateful for everything that they've had to do. But for people my age, getting a house, trying to get married, raising a family, trying to get some affordable rent, housing's going up, prices are like also going up. I felt like that's just a voice that's strongly lacking there. They're playing politics with our lives.
Right.
And, getting the perspective from a lot of people in Woodside, a lot of the business owners, not only the Hispanic, like it's the most diverse community, right? We have Filipinos, Ecuadorians, all types of Hispanics, Asians, like everybody there. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
So tell us a little bit about your party affiliation, and how does that compare with like your district and their party affiliation historically, and if it's changing at all right now, or what's going on? Tell us. We don't really know. So.
Right, right. So I'm the Republican candidate, and so it will be a majority, just like much of the areas in NYC, a majority of them are registered Democrats. I believe around 20% are registered independent. But what I found is that a lot of the Democrats there, they're registered Democrats because there's almost no reason to be registered under the other way because there's no primary that we usually have. It's just one candidate goes up and then they're good until the end of the year. And so a lot of them are registered Democrats to vote out the far leftists there. And so I feel like it's an actual chance where a lot of...
So historically, this is like a Democratic blue
yeah,
area.
Yeah, very much so.
What do you believe in that made you side with the Republicans? What are your core values, and how do they align with the Republican Party versus the Democratic Party? Because you're going against something, and afterwards, tell us a little bit about how the Democrats let you down. How did they change, or what is causing this conversion? Is there a conversion like going from blue to red? And tell us what you think. What are your thoughts?
I just always felt that like the Democrats have been ignoring a majority of the working families, a majority of the business owners here, a majority of the people who do much of the laughing, crying, dying, paying the taxes out here too. And I just always felt that there was always a lack of a balance in dialogue. That's what I've always cared about, whether high school, college, growing up. I just wanted that balance in dialogue. I always cared about people having their voice heard, and I just felt like Democrats didn't really do that. They might get elected by 60%, sometimes even 55%, and yet their policies turn into 90% of what everyone else, like they turn into like the 90% of what the minority is saying, and they completely ignore what the 40% are saying, what the other half are saying, what the people who are actually struggling are saying. And I just felt like if I could run, it would be under the Republican Party, because I feel like the Democratic Party has gone too far. They have the super majority. This is the most progressive city and probably one of the most progressive states, and yet housing is going up. Crime is always a huge problem here. Retail theft is going up. Prostitution on our streets. Our children are not safe, and our families are not safe either.
Okay, wow. All right. So that's what inspired you, and I see how you're aligned. Your personal values are aligned with the Republican Party. If you want, can we talk about the economy and jobs? What do you see going on, and what can you possibly do to help in that situation, and especially after post-COVID recovery in this area?
Yeah, so after COVID, well, first we lost a majority of our small business owners here. While the small businesses were closed, the larger ones remained open for a long period of time. People couldn't afford to pay rent. People cannot even afford to pay rent now. I feel like families are struggling, and I feel like if you had like an interview 5 or 10 years back, people would be saying like the same thing. But that just shows how we elect the very same people, and the problems are not getting solved. Cost of living going up, housing is also going up. People my age, people even older than I am, cannot even think about having a house here. They want to leave here. A majority of people left New York for states like Florida, Texas, and like a handful of others too. And I see the economy being a big reason why. Another thing has to do with the economy too, is just how much the Democrats play with our lives and play with our wallets too, like with the congestion prices going up. It was just recently announced earlier today that they're pulling back on that until probably after the election.
Oh, really?
Just like how they
I think they were
do.
going into effect at the end of the month.
Yeah, so I think Hochul recently announced that they're going into effect at like a later date. I don't know when that is, but I would imagine because people are pissed, they're going to wait until after 2024, and then they're going to go back to doing their normal stuff.
So you think they're taking a pause because of the elections and all?
Yeah, even a couple of Democrats were like very pleased with that, but they also have to listen to the people that they are working for. Teachers have to travel either out of state or into like the city too. City workers also have to travel. People cannot afford to, let alone pay for the subways, which are unsafe. Traveling between Manhattan and some of the other boroughs, it's like prices are adding up, taxes are adding up, gas is going up, and people cannot afford to do that.
So these kinds of policies are impacting the working folks that you want to represent.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and also, everybody, people my age too.
Yeah, people your age. So you're a young guy, you just graduated from college, so I mean, you have a better perspective of what the education system is doing right now, what kids are getting taught. So I want to hear your perspective on that, on the state of the education, in the city, in the state maybe, and particularly in your district. What are your observations, and what do you hope to do about it?
Oh, I have a long tangent on that.
Okay.
To put it simply, when you're at a restaurant, right? Sometimes you'll see a menu with like 200 items on there. Sometimes you go to another one with like 20 items on there. You would see maybe one has a more quality one. Maybe you don't need like the 200, 300 items on there. That's how I feel our education system is like. They're putting too much agendas in there. They're putting too many majors, courses, and I feel like the quality of the education, much like what the quality of life, is going down. A majority of people who are graduating from either middle school, high school, college don't have the necessary training to really advance into the rest of their careers. They don't have the financial advice, or what do you call, like they don't really
They don't
have
have the financial acumen.
exactly.
Yeah.
Not only that, but they don't have like the job training. They don't
They
have
don't
the
have,
vocational training. They don't have the necessary skills to really compete. And like the job market is crazy,
you think,
especially
like,
for those in
yeah.
competitive fields. It's like you have to
Right.
you have to really, really work hard for it. And I feel like students are not being taught that.
So you feel like some of the education is not aligning to what the market is demanding.
Right, right.
Okay. So you would advocate for like more specific trades and stuff, or I didn't quite catch that.
Right, yeah. So I would advocate for colleges to have, or not even colleges, high schools, schools within my district too, to have more programs for job training, career
Okay.
development training. That's
Sure.
what I did back in my college days too. I was the career development chair during my last year there. So we turned from a dying committee to getting over 80 students involved, developing the resumes, helping them with their resume skills, how to dress up better, just how to make themselves appear, I guess better wouldn't be like the proper word for that, but to make
Yeah.
themselves appear more professional, competent, developing their confidence. I feel like these are a lot of things that people our age are extremely lacking. They feel like ghosts, and then once they graduate, they wasted 4 or 5 years, and then they cannot even get a job. And I think that's partly because of the failure of our education system right now.
So Brandon, tell me, is there any kind of gender indoctrination on like how children should behave at an early age? Tell me a little bit about what's going on in the city and what your opinion is on that.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of that going on. I fear for my future children, or for any parents who have their children in the public school system. Now, don't get me wrong, like we need those public systems too, especially in such a very dense areas as Queens, or as like the rest of the other boroughs. But I feel that they're indoctrinating our kids not how to think, but what to think. And
Right.
so a lot of that, like I have a couple of family members who are not pleased with that too. Like I have my nieces, cousins, nephews being raised into the system where they're being taught about the LGBTQ curriculum, or being taught about sex at like a very early age. And people might say, okay, I'm over exaggerating, but those things are very real. I want someone to look at some of the community board meetings, to look at the school meetings, to see what the parents are actually saying and what they're actually finding in a couple of these libraries. And it's a very, very big problem. There was actually a protest.
What are some observations you saw at some of these meetings? Like, what are parents saying?
Right, so they are not happy. A lot of them would be a lot more louder about this than I am, but they would find books that have some genitalia on it, some very inappropriate pictures. I feel.
And what grade is this in? Like, we're talking about.
This would be like.
It's not high school, is it?
This would be middle school, early elementary school, and
God.
high school, which is terrible. There was actually a protest by the Elmhurst Public Library a couple of weeks back, which I also attended. And there was a lot of people who were not pleased. They were not pleased at what's happening. It's one thing to openly, want to, I guess, be open about your
Yeah, I mean, if you are who you are,
sexuality.
but
Yeah, but it's one thing to
Yeah.
put that onto our kids. I feel like
Yeah.
that would be the common ground that anyone with common sense would find. But I just almost feel like the left has gone so far up. There's like a wall there where, hey, this is the common ground that should be by default.
Yeah.
There's ones that want that gone completely, but the common ground, don't put that onto our kids, and they're just not willing to hear that out. It's
So
terrible.
you feel like it's too early in like elementary school to tell kids about these things, right?
Yeah.
And middle school, it's just too early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to like teach your kids about like safe sex and about a lot of these other things, but then they're actively pushing this on them, showing them these images too. Kids are very smart, like they will learn
Yeah.
about these things. Like when I was growing up, like kids would just talk about it.
Yeah.
Like kids, especially growing up with the internet too, they're exposed to a lot of these things, or they're exposed to a lot of these ideas too. I think enforcing that onto our schools is a huge problem that's only going to get worse from here.
Okay, good. So that brings up my question on healthcare.
Right.
What do you think of the quality and the access to healthcare in New York City and in your district?
I think healthcare has always been a big problem, and not only New York City, but the entire country too, as it pertains to my district or the rest
in
of
general,
the
whatever,
rest of
yeah.
Queens. I just feel that healthcare is one. It's very expensive. I think that we should really rally toward not only lowering the pharmaceutical drug costs, but trying to hold those, what's it called, the insurance companies accountable too, because we cannot really afford like a couple. Most of us cannot afford like $500 or $700 for an emergency. Just imagine if you happen to break your arm or something. An ambulance costs like a couple of $100. Going to the doctor is like an extra one. I dislocated my shoulder when I went hiking back in PA last October. After like that storm happened, so like the stairs were very slippery. I fell, but I specifically did not use the ambulance. I had my friend drive me because I had a couple of friends because I knew as soon as I was back out, the ambulance cost was going to be like a couple of $100 for like what? It's like it costs way too much money for that, and so I just always saw that as a very big problem, and it's not really accessible for the ordinary person.
All right, thank you. Now I'm going to touch the big topic
Let's do it.
because of this
I'm ready.
neighborhood that we're in Queens.
Right.
And you're obviously, your parents are immigrants, our parents are immigrants, my parents, so I understand how this works. My parents came here in the legal way, and I grew up here in Queens myself. So this is something that we want to talk about. What's going on with immigration, legal and illegal?
Well, I feel we have too many people coming in. I think anybody with common sense or anyone with a rational mind would understand, okay, maybe 10,000 people came in like the last couple of months. Okay, maybe we should deal with that. But then millions of people, I don't know what the actual numbers are. I know it's over 7 million. It's probably double that.
And
those are only the figures
yeah.
that we actually know of.
And
There's
a lot
too
of them
many
are getting sent to New York, and Queens is facing the brunt of this.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, so there's been a lot of migrant shelters opening up, and there's been a couple of protests. I've been to a couple in Maspeth where they're opening up a migrant shelter right by Grand Avenue, and a lot of people are not open to that because not only does that expose the rest of the community to the illegal migrants there, but it sets a terrible precedent because as soon as one opens up, then that gives the electeds clearance to open up 4 or 5 more. I think we're going in depth. We don't have infinite money. We're wasting too much money. I don't want all of these people to be all of a sudden sent home or we don't spend money on them. They also have to be fed. They have to be housed. Everyone understands that. But millions of people coming in is a huge problem. And I think us being declared a sanctuary city, that's also a huge mistake. Staten Island wants nothing to do with them. Upstate New York wants nothing to do with them. The rest of our country wants nothing to do with them. And I feel like it sets a terrible precedent when our president or our leaders are actively saying, come in, and then it's like we don't have the money for that. Not only like the money, we don't have the space, and we need to make sure that our community stays safe.
And in Queens, we're facing most of this. Most of the migrants are coming here, so we feel it more than the other boroughs.
Exactly.
Like Staten Island, I don't know what's going on there, but I know that we see them here everywhere, like in areas, Roosevelt Avenue specifically, and other places.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's also like around me too.
So you're saying what I'm trying to understand is you're saying that we need to be humanitarian with these the migrants specifically, that just crossed over the border, but at the same time we need to address integration issues. It seems like, and so what are some of the safety issues or potential issues that you see because of this influx of people?
Right.
What impact has that had on the quality of life?
Oh, it's had a terrible impact on it. Just like a couple blocks from me, every time I drive up, I go up Queens Boulevard right by 61st. There's like a park there, and outside I see a lot of the migrants hang out there. No young woman, man, child, family wants to walk around there. No one wants their children to walk around there either. They're flooding the streets. I feel like under like the train station right by Roosevelt Avenue, either going below 61st Street or up above that, it gets worse and worse and worse, and we just see the influx of them coming in here. And I just feel that our families do not feel safe. It also lowers the prices of some of the communities there and makes the reputations worse. It affects the people walking around there, business owners, the actual stakeholders, or just like the regular passers-by who maybe might not live in my area, but they just walk around there like, okay, I'm going to avoid that. There's way too many people there. I don't feel safe. They're either going to be catcalled or they're going to be asking for work, or it's just, you just never want that to happen. We want to make sure that we protect the quality of life, and having an influx of illegal migrants here, maybe have them help clean up our parks or something, because the more people you have, and especially the more undocumented people that you have, I don't think it's a coincidence that our communities are having more garbage there. And they're facing a lot more, I guess, crime.
Yeah, so that was my next question. So you feel like there's a safety issue?
Yeah.
Have there been any issues recently caused by any illegal migrants that you know of?
Well, just earlier this week,
that's right.
there was the 2 cops that were shot by a 19-year-old migrant. thankfully, as far as I'm aware, none of them died. But
Thank God for
that's
that.
just one out of several examples that happen every week, and I mean every week we hear about it. They don't want to document it, or the media doesn't want to talk about it. But it's not that all illegal migrants coming in here are committing a crime. Well, they are by coming in here illegally, right?
Well,
But yeah, right. But it's not that they're
yeah.
all like committing crimes as soon as they're here. But the ones that are shouldn't be here in the first place. And the fact that they're being let out and then they're able to do something like that. I was speaking to. That's where I got to meet you guys actually. Where we were at this support our police rally, right by North Corona, as far as
Right.
I forgot the name of the exact street, right outside the
Right.
114th precinct. And I spoke to a couple of the families there, and there was this one guy. He had his wife with him. He showed me a picture that happened 2 weeks back. He had a huge gash on his head. He was attacked by.
Wow.
I wasn't sure if it was a migrant or by someone there, but either way, they were a criminal. And guess what? They were not caught. And so just imagine if people who are
Whoa.
able to come in here illegally are not being sent back home. There's no consequences. We don't have much of a party platform or like this. I talk about the consequences. They're being let back out. Not only the people that are here illegally, but also the people that are here legally. It's like an open venue for criminals to do whatever that they want. If it could happen to him, think about it could happen to me, to you, anybody
Yeah.
tomorrow. And I would rather people understand that now before it happens to them, before it happens to their family members.
Right, so it stretches our police a little thin. Now they have to deal with more people,
Yeah,
regardless of whether they're legal or illegal. There's just a lot more to deal with.
exactly.
So what's this catch and release policy? They catch the criminals and just let them go?
Just let them go. Yeah,
It's like when you go fishing, you catch the fish and then you gotta let it go humanely. Is that what it is?
I guess so. I feel like Democrats always claim to be the party of humane policies or the humanitarian policies, and then I feel like it's less humane to let these criminals back out because then they're going to wreak more havoc. There's less of a dialogue about the consequences, and it encourages others to keep on committing crimes, and a lot of them don't get caught. Or if they do get caught, it's just like a slap on the wrist until it gets
Yeah.
way worse.
We've heard recently on our channel,
Right.
we covered some areas where there were some robberies in stores, and it was done by people who were recently caught and then let go.
Yep.
So if there's no consequences,
No.
they're just going to